This is part 2 of section 6.5. We want to find the angle between these two vectors. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find the dot product of these two. So v dot w is equal to 2 times -4, which is 8, plus 3 times 6, which is 18. So this will be 26. Okay. We need the magnitude of v, which would be the square root of 4, -2 squared is 4, plus 3 squared is 9, so that would be the square root of 13. And we need the magnitude of w, which is the square root of 4 squared, 16, plus 6 squared, which is 36, and that is the square root of 52. We know that cosine of theta is equal to the dot product over your two magnitudes multiplied together. We have the square root of 13 times the square root of 52. If you multiply these together, you get 26, which is 1. Theta is going to be cosine inverse of 1, which is 0 degrees. Okay? We're going to come back to this one as well. Note here that if these two meet in a 90-degree angle, they are right angles. Okay? Here, if we have the angle between two vectors being 0, then they are parallel. We're going to be coming back to all of this. Here, let's find the angle between these two. We need v dot w. So that will be -2 times -4, which is 8, plus -3 times 6 is -18, so this is -10. The magnitude of v is actually going to be the same as up here. The signs don't particularly matter because we're squaring them. We're still going to have the square root of 4 plus 9, which is the square root of 13. And the magnitude of w, this is exactly the same as this one, so it has the same magnitude, which is 52 square root of 52. So cosine of theta is going to equal -10 over the square root of 13 times the square root of 52, which is 26. And this is -5 over 13. Okay, find your cosine, your theta is going to equal cosine inverse of -5 over 13. Inverse cosine of -5 over 13 is approximately 112.6. So 112.6 degrees. Okay. Parallel vectors, which is this case right here. Two vectors v and w are parallel if and only if the dot product is either plus or minus the multiplication, the product of the two magnitudes. Look up here. We said our degree, we had 0 degrees and we had parallel. Here our top and our bottom, the dot product and the product of the magnitudes, they're both 26, which gives me 1, which gives me 0 degrees. Now, two vectors can be parallel if they go in the opposite direction. And the angle here would be 180 degrees. And that's going to happen when this ends up being -1 here instead of +1. And that will happen when these have the same numerical value but opposite signs. So that's where this plus or minus comes in. If after we've done all of this, we end up with either 1 or -1, then we have parallel vectors. So let's look at example here, where we want to decide whether these vectors are parallel. We're going to find the dot product first. So v dot w. This will be -50 plus -2 times 4 is -8. So this is -58. Okay. Now find the magnitude of v. That's going to be the square root of 5 squared plus 4 squared. Oh, no, 5 squared plus 2 squared, or -2 squared. So that's 25 plus 4, which will be the square root of 29. The magnitude of w is the square root of -10 squared, which is 100, plus 4 squared, which is 16. So that's the square root of 116. The magnitude of v times the magnitude of w is the magnitude of 29 times 116, which is 58. V dot w is equal to negative of this. We just want our dot product to have the same absolute value as the product of our magnitudes. We can have opposite signs, we can have the same sign, but since -58 is equal to either plus or minus the magnitude of v times the magnitude of w, these are parallel lines, or parallel vectors. Okay. Let's do the same thing here. Let's find v dot w. 3 times -6 is -18, plus 5 times 10 is 50, and this is equal to 32. The magnitude of v times the magnitude of w will equal the square root of 3 squared plus 5 squared, 9 plus 25, times the square root of 36 plus 100, which is the square root of 34 times the square root of 136, which is the square root of, multiply these two things together, 4624, and this is equal to 68. 32 does not equal 68. 32 does not equal -68. So these are not parallel.